All right, take two. This is all off the cuff. I don't write down a potential script or go from cue cards or whatnot. So my last video got to the point where I'd messed up saying enough things that we started a new one. But hey everyone, this is Paul with Raven Creek Homestead. So I was in the process of editing and going to be posting up a video on my extraction process for the honey supers and the frames that I had pulled off. But the problem is that after doing a bunch of recording, upon review, I noticed that I had messed up with how my camera focuses. I believe I found a resolution to that. Some cameras autofocus better than others. You have to have the settings right, and you know, I'm kind of learning this as I go. So it's like beekeeping, trial and error, right? So at any rate, a lot of those videos I'm not going to be using. Now, also I made use of my GoPro in conjunction with the videos as well. Maple. Hey everybody, this is Maple. She's my cattle dog mix. She's my new pup. She's about 7 months old right now. All right, I'm making movies. You're gonna go. Good girl. With the GoPro, unfortunately, my open case for the GoPro, it's broken on the bottom. That's supposed to have 2 tabs, so that way it locks into the GoPro holder better. The problem with not being able to use this one has 2 open holes right here for the microphone, so it picks up the voice recording aspect really well. Unfortunately, I was using a dive case, which is great for holding the GoPro where I wanted to, but it doesn't have the ports, obviously, for the microphone, so the audio is very subdued. So hopefully when you get to the GoPro portions of the videos, you'll still be able to hear me. If you do crank the volume up, be careful because it will switch back to the other videos. In one of the videos that I'm not going to be including into this edit, simply talked about a couple of tools that I make use of. One being a refractometer. Now the refractometer, when you're going to be extracting the honey, this is a good tool to have in your toolbox that beekeepers can use to let us know what the moisture content of the honey is. Now that's important. Generally speaking, you're going to want a moisture content of around somewhere between 17 to 18%. And the reason why you wouldn't want to go high on that, the reason why you wouldn't want to go over, say, 20 or 21%, is because if you bottle your honey with a high water content, it can ferment. And we don't want fermented honey. We want to make sure that we're putting a good product out. So this is super easy and very cheap, by the way, as well. 30 bucks I think I paid for this. What you do is you go ahead, and I use this little screwdriver. I go ahead and break some of the capping on the honey on that. Take a little bit of the honey, then you smear it on this little surface right here. Once you do that, just like in science class, you close that and you look through the eyepiece. Now inside there's a little chart that you can look, and it'll have a blue bar that ends next to a couple of numbers, and it'll tell you right there what the hydration level of what the water content is of the honey. Generally speaking too, if it's capped over, it's probably pretty good. The bees know when to store the honey so that it's not going to ferment. But I always like to check it anyway. And with some of that too, if you end up with a higher percentage, say I had 1 frame out of 15 frames that I was going to spin, that's at 19%, but the other frames are all 17%, feel free to spin that. Once that all mixes in, that's going to bring the average right down into a good level as well. And if you're concerned at all, before you bottle it, go ahead and check it with the refractometer as well. So another real quick point too, before I go along with the other videos in this, is last year for uncapping the frames. I don't have any capped frames right next to me because I processed them all the other day, but to decap, to uncap a capped frame of honey. Last year I was so excited. It was my first year to go ahead and get a honey flow and to get capped honey and to make my first extraction. I thought I needed a hot knife, a hot decapping tool. You know, you plug it in, it gets up to a ridiculous amount of degrees to the point that it'd burn you if it touched you. Oh my God, I hated it. It burned the capping, there was smoke, it was searing, it was just, of course, maybe I bought too cheap of a model, it didn't have an adjustment on it or whatnot, it was basically a plug and play. and I only got maybe 4 or 5 frames with it, and I threw it in the garbage. And the thing is too, if you get an irregular level of capping or honeycomb, it'll only scrape what it reaches on the limits of the frame as well. Otherwise, you end up digging out little parts with it. So last year, I ended up using a fork, which worked 10 times better, and it worked just fine. This year, for all of about $6 off of Amazon, I got an improved fork. So this is just a decapping fork. And then what I also did in conjunction with this as well is I switched it up a little bit, where last year I used a whole separate decapping tank with a board across with a screw coming up, and you'll see a lot of people that suggest that method online and whatnot. So that way you take off all your cappings, they can drain and everything else. I did it all right over my extractor. I did all my decappings right there, and as all the cappings would build up on this, they went right down into the extractor. And so that way, when I was out of my honey gate, when I'm pouring, you'll see in the video, you'll see a lot of wax cappings coming out with the honey that either went right into the strainer right away into my honey bucket, or it went into one of my other honey buckets that was specifically unstrained honey. And those will set up, and I'll show you what I did with the wax cappings from those buckets later on in the video as well. But I found it was one less thing to clean up. I didn't have a whole separate extracting tank, or excuse me, a whole separate decapping tank. And because I'm moving uncapped frames that amount of fewer times, I told you, all off the cuff, you're welcome. Since I'm doing that all right over the extractor, any dripped honey or fallen product or wax cappings that fall, they're falling right into the extractor tank. So I'm not making an extra mess, I'm not losing any product. So for me, it was just that much easier. So at any rate, and another thing about the videos as well is lighting. How did I not think of lighting? I'm a photographer, that's why I have this camera. Man, I got a ways to go on the video capture. I'll get better, I promise, guys. There we go. Now the GoPro's going. Let's go ahead and start running this. Now this is variable speed. I don't think I've ever run this on high. Although maybe I can run it faster than normal because it is strapped in. But even that, if I run it too fast, it sucks all the foundation, all the comb that they've built right off the frames. And I don't want to handicap the bees by taking all of their hard-earned work away. I want to be able to put these back on the hives, give them the ability to just clean up the cells and fill them with nectar right away again. And so at any rate, you get the point. Gonna keep going in here, uncapping frames, putting them in, spinning them out, and I'll get some honey flowing into a bucket here for you at another part of the video. Oh yeah, that is a beautiful sight right there. Alright, so that was a long day of extracting. Literally that took me probably about 6 hours. Part of that 2 hours plus was because I brought the temperature in this room up to 80 degrees so that way the honey flowed better. So that took a while just to get the furnace on and get the heat up to 80 in mid-July. So that was interesting, but I've got almost 5 gallons, probably about 4 gallons, and then I have a bucket that's already filtered that's almost full at the 4.5 gallons as well. So let's go ahead and take a weight and see how much we got for a yield today. Then I got this bucket here that all the cappings I'm filtering out and such through cheesecloth, and I'll get a little bit more honey from that, but I'll also get a lot of the wax cappings that I'll be able to make use of as well. So let's go ahead and see. That one is 53 pounds. My memory is terrible. Help me out here, guys. 53. 46. So that's 99. Plus 48. So we're looking at 147. Not the quickest at math, but I'll take 147. That's pretty amazing. Today for my honey. Yesterday was a long day of doing a lot of extraction. I pulled the frames that were in good condition, fully capped over, off of 7 supers. It yielded me just over 12 gallons of honey, 147 pounds of honey. And I'm going to be going ahead and bottling a lot of that. I got a lot of glass jars of various sizes here. 8 ounce, 1 pound, 2 pound. I even ordered up a couple of 5 pound jugs as well. I got a couple of friends that love honey and go through a lot of it. So a 6-pack or so of the 5 pounds. I also went ahead and ordered a bunch of plastic 2-pound containers as well. That'll help me out if I'm going to be shipping to, and there those go. I'm going to go ahead and be able to ship those with better than the glass jars, or at least with more confidence that they're not going to shatter or break. In addition to that, so I have one bucket that's almost to 5 gallons full of the fully filtered honey already. Then what I'm going to be doing, excuse me while I jump around a little bit here, is so now I have, while I was extracting from the extractor, I didn't have time to wait for the strainer the entire time. It just takes a lot of time for that strainer to strain, and then it gets full of cappings. And so what I also have 2 buckets that are full of unfiltered, or excuse me, unstrained honey as well. So what I did is I let these sit overnight, and if I can get this bucket here to show you, what happens is a lot of that stuff ends up at the top. So I have another bucket that's set up with this hardware cloth that's full of a lot of the cappings. So what I can do is I have a little ladle. I can go ahead and ladle off a lot of those cappings just like that. That's all wax cappings. It does have a little bit of honey in it as well, which is the cheesecloth is going to separate that for me. Now, so when I pour this bucket into this bucket through my strainer, it doesn't have to fight all those wax cappings, and the straining will hopefully go a lot faster that way. So what I'm going to go, yeah, I think you understand that process here, so let me leave that to the side for a moment. Let's go ahead and fill up one of these 5-pound jars of honey. This is what all the hard work is about, right? I mean, for me anyway. I don't make my own woodenware to sell, and I don't sell queens and all that stuff. For me, it's all about the honey. A little bit about the wax. Got a lot of people that's waiting for this stuff. So here we go. It's about 74 degrees here inside this room. The honey will be at that ambient temperature, so it should flow pretty good. Now, when you pour honey, I mean, this is a pretty big wide mouth jar, but if we had one of these little ones here, one of these 8-ounce jars, make sure, don't put it right up to the honey gate on this bucket, because when it comes out thick, or it comes out wide. You're gonna get honey everywhere. Make sure you're always holding the jar down, 5-6 inches down. And then, this is what you need as well. You're gonna need a little kitchen scale. I got this from the internet for, I don't know, I think it was $6 to $10, something like that. We're always gonna wanna make sure that we're not shorting anybody that's purchasing our honey. So if we get a 5-pound jar, we're gonna make sure there's 5 pounds of honey in it, especially since we wanna make sure that we're labeling correctly. So we're gonna put our jar right on there. We're gonna zero it out with the jar. I'm already at minus 1 pound, 6 ounces. It's a hefty jar. So we're gonna make sure that there's 5 pounds in that. Oh, look at that beautiful golden honey. And now as I fill up a lot of these jars, as I said, I'm gonna, in conjunction, have the strainer sitting on top of here, and I'll be constantly putting more honey into this bucket so that I can make use of the honey gate. I should probably just make more buckets with honey gates as well, but I only have one strainer currently. So this process works out for me for now. I'm not sure where the 5-pound limit is on these jars. You can usually get a decent sense of where that limit is on most jars, but I've never filled up a 5-pound jar before. I'm only my 3rd season into beekeeping, and so I've never gotten this much honey. I'm incredibly excited. Generally speaking, on your first year of beekeeping, it's really all about just making sure that your bees establish a really good, solid colony, in that it's going to overwinter well. You know, up here in New Hampshire, we have brutal winters. You're going to want to make sure that they can survive those 0-degree temperatures, those 10-degree Fahrenheit days. You know, brutal weather. Your second year, you can get your honey supers on, but even then, they have to take so many resources just to build up the comb and the foundation that, generally speaking, even on your second season, you're not really going to get a high yield of honey. So this being my 3rd season, this is when I was actually able to get production out of my hive. So I'm at 4.6 pounds here, so we're going to go a little bit more. I'd rather be a little bit over than a little bit under. Of course, when you label your products, labeling is very important, and honey is sold by weight, so you're going to want to make sure that you're accurate with what's going on. Oh, close, 3 ounces off. That was 4 pounds 13. I said I'd rather be a little bit, whoa, over. I almost went really over. Here we go. I got 5 pounds, 0.2 ounces. So I am really happy with that. I have all my caps over here as well. By the way, all these glass jars were ordered from betterbee.com. I really like that outfit. Everything I've got from them has been a high quality. The prices are always spot on. You know, I can't thank those guys enough over at Better Bee. So when you order from them, you can get a couple of different types of caps as well. I like the white personally. There we go. 5 pounds of honey from Raven Creek Homestead. Man, my friends are gonna love this. I'm stoked. So I got a lot of bottles to fill up. I'm gonna get to work. So up in the main kitchen now, better lighting for me and some really good counter space and such for me to use. So most of the honey, all except about 5 gallons worth, is in jars now. It's all weighed out. You would think that the work is just about done, but no, not exactly. It all needs to be labeled. Be sure to check your local state and municipalities' regulations for any sort of labeling requirements. New Hampshire has some pretty specific requirements on that. But I do have all the labels front and back on all the honey jars that are going to be going out. So definitely make sure you get the weight on there. But front and back, all the labels are on there. And then, for me personally, I still got to put on my finishing touch as well. So I'm going to show you what that is about. That's this guy right here. Every single top is going to get a wax seal. And I just ordered a new one today, but for right now, it's that right there, my little Raven. I got another Raven one coming. So, let's see. First one of the day that I'm going to try to seal. Sometimes this stuff is challenging to work with. If you put too much, it's a mess. If you don't put enough, you don't get a full seal. So we're going to see. Here we go. First one. And already a mess, but let's go ahead and get that on there. Now yes, this does take a good amount of extra time. I need to do this to every single bottle I put out. But it's something I enjoy doing, and it puts a nice little finishing touch, in my opinion. Let's see how we did. Hey, that one came out pretty good. So, I'm no pro. Some people can make the different embossing, different colors and such like that. But there we go. My nice little Raven seal for Raven Creek Homestead. So I'm going to get to work and finish sealing up all of these, and then this honey's ready to go out. Do the YouTube thing if you want, if this was interesting, if you found it informative, if you like what I'm doing, or if you just like pushing buttons, like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. Until the next video, see you guys later. Have a great day.